Let's quickly say hi to Amrish Baliga, who's now joining us on the show today. Amrish, good to have you. So, how is it looking like? We've been getting a little wobbly, just around the 5,900 mark.
Clearly there is weakness, and because of which, last couple of months we hardly saw investors in the market, but traders were back for a while. But then with the sort of volatility which we have, these traders are getting killed both ways. So the way I see it, possibly it should be, weaker, going ahead. But then we are close to a support level which is about 59, 30, 40. In case we don't break this, there is a possibility of a bounce back, but I don't see a bounce back which will be, as high as what we saw in the last 3 or 4 weeks. But in case we break these levels, then I think we are headed towards 5,800 levels. So as of now, in fact, we are suggesting both traders and investors to just stay out and watch for a while.
Okay, Amrish, just wait for a second. We are running into the opening this morning. The Nifty is very quiet. It's not doing too much actually right now. Tata Motors is down 1.5%. It's the weakest stock. Infosys is down 1% after yesterday's performance. Maruti is still weak. TCS is down. So these are the initial trends that are coming up. Hindalco, Hero Moto, Lupin are some of the names on the upside. The rupee, meanwhile, just to point out here, is still holding on to strength, at least for now. There's about a 0.3% up move on the currency, which is a bit of a relief, at least for whatever it's worth for the time being. Priyank?
Will be the key focus point as well as to how and what kind of cues we pick up from the currency as well, because yesterday and the last 2 days that's really been the pain as far as markets go. On Friday sell-off also, and yesterday's kind of weakness that we saw, it was all to do with the way currency moved. Alright, nonetheless, we're getting the opening moves right now on the index. Extremely quiet, just 5 odd points low for the Sensex is what we're tracking currently. Pull up Hero Moto firstly. That was the other stock that was on the radar on the back of its sales that came in post-market hours. A 1.8% up move for that particular counter is what we've seen in trade. So that one's holding on to decent gains, almost now 2.5% up move there. Take a look at Infosys after yesterday's run up. Now it's started to cool off pretty sharply. 1.5% lower is what we're seeing straight away in the opening moves itself for that stock. Reliance Industries that's seen a cut yesterday as well. 0.4% higher is what we're seeing for the stock today. Bajaj Auto down by almost 1% is the kind of cut that we've seen there today. Sun Pharma, after that recent run up, has started to cool off a little bit, a 1% fall. TCS 1% lower. Tata Motors also down nearly 1.3% is what we're seeing right now. Hindalco, on the other hand, is trading higher by nearly 1.3%. Cipla, Dr. Reddy's are some of the other stocks that are actually showing some strength right now. Bharti also marginally higher there by 1%. ITC 0.4% up move coming in. Take a look at GAIL. That one's the other. That's the other stock that's holding on to gains of 0.2% or so. But apart from that, apart from a couple of individual stocks like Infosys, that's down 1.7. Hero Moto is up 2.2. It's a pretty quiet screen that we're seeing in terms of opening moves right now. TCS down nearly 1% or so is the kind of cut that we've seen there. Let's pull up some of the other the number of stocks that are gaining and losing on the Nifty itself. The index up by around about 8 points. 36 stocks gaining, 13 stocks losing out is what we're seeing. In terms of individual names, let's focus there as well, and you get Hero Moto, which is the top gainer, 2.5% up move there. Hindalco, Cipla, Ambuja, JP Associate, DLF also up by nearly 1.2%. All these stocks showing gains of anywhere between 1-1.5%. In terms of stocks that are losing out, Infosys 1.6% lower, Ultratech, TCS, Ranbaxy is also down by 1% or so is what we're seeing. Tata Motors down by nearly 1% is the kind of cut that we've seen on that one. Ambuja, Indosin, PNB, M&M all on the gaining side, but the quantum is pretty flat there. 0.5% to 1% up move is what we're tracking. Maruti, Kotak Mahindra Bank and HCL Tech are some of the other stocks that are losing out right now. But so it's been an extremely quiet opening. 5948 is what we're tracking right now.
Okay, so in beyond the Nifty 50, Lanco Infratech really stands out. 7% up move. It's a big order Lanco's got. The value of the order is almost 3,300 crores. It's from Gujarat Industries Commission. That's a big one for sure. Apart from that, Suzlon announced some additional orders as well for wind farms. It hasn't really helped the stock. Suzlon's seen a slam dunk last 2 sessions. Let's see what else is catching the eye. From the mid-caps side of the market, we've got some gain on a Unitech, about a 0.25% higher. Then there is the likes of an HDIL slightly up and about. IFCI is up about 1%. L&T Finance Holdings, actually let's get all the bank license candidates going on the screen. L&T Finance, good volumes and a good surge, 3.5% up. Let's get M&M Financial, Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, all these stocks slightly excited after some more clarity came in on those norms yesterday from the Reserve Bank of India. So gains of 1 to 2%. on most of these counters. Anything else that really stands out? That it's getting fairly quiet out there, one would have to say. Lanco is the real star. Apollo Hospitals is having a very good morning. There's a 4% up move on in Apollo Hospitals. And that is pretty much it. There's IL&FS Transportation Networks, which is up to about 3.5% as well. So interesting gains coming in on that stock. On the weaker side, let me see if there are any stocks that are really down and out. Not too much really. Then the trends are fairly muted and quiet. Amrish, so let's talk about some of the trends that we've noticed. First of all, what did you think of Infosys? Does the announcement change your view on the stock at all?
Not very much, because clearly we had a bump up. No doubt his coming back has been welcomed by the broader market. But then I think going ahead, clearly people will look at what sort of deliveries come. So I think it will be watched very closely. But because of him coming back, I don't see any further up move from here. We've already got that 4-5% bump up. But after this, I think clearly people will see as to whether he's able to deliver or not. And clearly, I think this innings will be much tougher than his previous innings. So I think people will watch it closely. So as of now, for me, it's a hold. I think once we see that the deliveries happen, possibly will change the view.
Amrish, what about the NBFC space? We've been looking at the kind of clarification that came in from the RBI yesterday in terms of the way some of the bank aspirants has also been moving today. Is that a space that one can actually look at from a near-term point of view?
Yeah, since that date is coming closer, and yes, the norms are getting a bit tougher, no doubt. So I think only those bigger boys would actually stay in the fray. And among these, I would clearly put my bets on possibly L&T Finance as well as Shriram Transport. I think these are the two players who could in fact be there more towards the end.
What about auto sales, Amrish? Again, the trends are slightly muted. Hero Moto this morning, because they're the only ones that have managed any kind of a gain at all. That's a stock that's up nearly 3%.
Yeah, in fact, this is what I've been saying about the auto space for quite a while, that since the numbers would continue to be weak, I think this will clearly play out in the financial results which will come in the next 2 quarters. So any sort of a bump up which we see in the auto space should in fact be utilized to book out, because clearly the risk reward ratio is not favorable right now. And like I said, I think these monthly sales numbers will continue to be weak at least till the festive season, which is about September, October. So the next couple of months would be weak. But at the same time, if we see a good correction in the strongest stocks like Maruti or Mahindra & Mahindra, I think at lower levels one could look at buying. But something like a Tata Motors at these levels, in fact, I'm finding it still quite expensive, not just because of the Indian sales, but in fact we see with that sort of a slowdown happening in China, I think JLR sales will get affected. So I think at these levels, Tata Motors will be a sell.
Amrish, then what's the advice to clients right now? What kind of themes or what kind of stocks would you actually be looking into? Anything that's looking like a bargain right now? Anything that you would like to probably buy at current levels? Can you recommend something like that?
Just because some of the stocks have cracked heavily does not mean that they are bargain buys, because a number of times you assume them to be bargain buys and then they seek lower levels. In fact, I would look at those stocks possibly which are touching new highs. For example, something like a Sun Pharma. Even at these levels, we feel that there's still a lot of juice left, and I think that's one stock to be looked at among the pharma space. The second one would be Lupin. Among the other sectors where we are quite favorable is basically the oil marketing companies, where we feel that over the next couple of years, next 4-5 years, we could have some multi-baggers out here. And here I would surely suggest people to pick up something like a HPCL or IOC. These are the two top picks in that sector. So basically pharma and oil marketing companies we feel are comparatively safe space to be in.
Amrish, two stocks that have been pretty much on the radar on the back of a bunch of news development have been ONGC and Reliance Industries. Since you spoke about the oil and gas pack itself, any view on these two counters?
In fact, ONGC is basically in a range. Generally, it does not break out of that range. It remains in that range for a while. Earlier that range was closer to about 280, 290. It broke out of that range, moved to the next range. Now it's in that 50-51 rupees sort of a range. But then from an investment angle, surely I would suggest people to look at Reliance, because going ahead, clearly we see that gas pricing happening, and the way we see it is it should happen more closer to about $8.5-9. So that would be one major booster for Reliance. So at these levels, we are finding it quite attractive to buy.
Another quick stat here. I was just looking recently at the kind of fall that the markets have seen from the recent peak itself. One of the key stocks that's contributed the most to that fall has been L&T in terms of the correction that the index has actually seen. What's the call on that stock? Would you probably looking at buying L&T at the current levels of around about 1400 or so?
Yes, I think at the current levels, the downside risk is quite low. I don't see it correcting more than possibly 50-75 rupees more from here. And we do believe that going ahead, it should show that growth of 18-20% which the management had talked about during the last quarter results. We see that happening. And if you're looking at infrastructure capital goods space, I think this is the best bet. And clearly India can't do without infrastructure going ahead. If you're talking of the growth over the next 4-5 years, clearly I think L&T is one stock to be picked up. And at these levels, if one buys, one should keep in mind that possible downside is about 50-75 rupees, but upside we still have the target about 1870, 1880.
Finally, Ambrish, let's talk about the stocks that you really like the most, the capital goods and the industrial play. I was just looking at details on the Lanco order. It's good to see that at least something started flowing, and it's from a Gujarat company. But anyway, anything that you spotted in the earnings season that's giving you comfort to perhaps go out and buy, even though visibility is low, we know that?
No, something like a Lanco, despite these orders, I think, we would see that bump up basically from a speculator's angle, because the question is, this large an order, can their balance sheet support that? We have already seen that the balance sheet is extremely stretched. The question is, this large an order, whether it would be delivered, as to whether execution can happen in time. I think all these questions will come up. Whereas if this order was won by L&T, yes, I think that would have been a big positive. But Lanco getting this order could be only a speculative buy from a short-term angle. It does not change our opinion that Lanco becomes an investment buy.
What about beyond Lanco? Lanco is, I was just stating the news today, but beyond Lanco, when you're looking at this entire space, are there any stocks out there that you're willing to keep?
I think among the other stocks which I would look at is ILFS Transportation, again looking at the sort of pedigree from where it comes and the sort of performance it has shown even during tough times. That is one stock which we would look at buying. The third one, which again I've been recommending for a while, which has not really done well, is the GMR Infra. Clearly they are moving on to an asset-light model, and I think that should pay off over the next year and a half, 2 years. So that's the third stock.
Just to check on the markets, almost a 0.5% move coming in on the index is what we've seen. The top loser remains Infosys, 1.5% lower. Hero Motor top gainer, that 2% up move. Hindalco, DLF, Ambuja, ONGC, L&T all showing some decent strength is what we've actually seen in terms of individual stocks right now. Asian Paints also and Reliance Industries, some of the other stocks that are actually showing some strength. Ambrish, what about the metals pack? We've seen Tata Steel actually see some kind of healthy gains after the numbers actually came in. Is that probably a theme that's looking a little bit alive right now to what it looked compared to a couple of months back?
Yeah, surely. We see that the metal stocks have more or less bottomed out. If you're talking about both Tata Steel and Hindalco, post the sort of results which they have shown. But then, does that mean that these stocks will start a new bull run? Which I don't think so. But like I said, I think the bottom has been made, so the downside from here seems limited. But then for these stocks to really show those decent gains, I think it will take a while. It will take at least about 9 to 12 months. But we see the cycle has actually changed.
All right, Ambrish, we leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this morning and getting us your perspective on markets and individual stocks as well. All right, on the Twitter today, rupee hitting new lows. How bad can it get? Tweet us your view on Bloomberg TV IND and tell us what you make of that move as far as the currency is concerned. Well, on that note, it's a wrap for this edition of First Trade. Stay tuned. In Business coming up in just 2 minutes.
First Trades, presented by BSC, Investors Protection Fund.